WordPress Accessibility Day 2023 Lightning Talk, Creating Accessible Forms the Easy Way, with Morgan Kay, Software Engineer at Rocket Genius, and Rian Rietveld, Web Accessibility Expert, the A11Y Collective. This presentation was recorded September 28, 2023.
Welcome to WordPress Accessibility Day 2023. My name is Ronak Ganatra and I am a Senior WordPress Engineer at Multidots. This session is a lightning round with the 3 short talks that have been pre-recorded. The first talk in this session is creating accessibility forms the easy way by Rian Rietveld, Web Accessibility Expert, the A11Y Collective, and Morgan Kay, Software Engineer at Rocket Genius. There will be no Q&A during this lightning round, but please use the chat to connect with other attendees. Maybe Rian is around, so you can connect with him as well, right?
Hello. We're going to talk about forms and accessibility. Forms are the most common interactive elements on websites and the most basic way for users to share information with you. That makes it really important for your forms to be accessible. If users can't fill out your form, they can't interact with you, they can't place an order, they can't register for your event or fill out your survey. But making an accessible form can be intimidating. There are a lot of things you need to know to comply with accessibility standards. Fortunately, Gravity Forms makes it easy to create accessible forms. By just paying attention to a few settings, you can create accessible forms quickly and easily. My name is Morgan Kay, and I am an engineer at Gravity Forms. I will be joined by Rian Rietveld, an accessibility expert at Level and the Alley Collective. Together, we will show you how to make an accessible form with Gravity Forms. So let's dive in and start creating a form. I'm going to start with a blank form so that I can add my own fields, and let's call this customer information. So let's add some fields here. Let's put in a name field and an address field, and maybe we want to know like what days of the week people are available for something. So let's put in this multi-select field. Let's go to edit choices and add days of the week. So the thing about a multi-select field is it's this box where you can put in you can select multiple items from this box. So that's great if we've got a situation where people might have multiple answers to a question, right? But the problem is there's this accessibility warning about this field. So let's have Rian show us why this field is not recommended if you want your form to be accessible.
Multi-selects are difficult to operate with a mouse, keyboard or screen reader. People struggle filling them out, especially when the choices are not next to each other. For example, I am available on Monday and Wednesday. When I click Monday and then Wednesday, Monday is deselected. I have to press the Control key or Command key to select them both. Now with keyboard only. I tap into the field, press down with the arrow key. I press spacebar to select the day. I hold down the Control key or Command key, press down again, release the Control or Command key, press spacebar again, and then press tab to leave the multi-select. This doesn't work well in Safari. When I tap in the field, arrow down to Monday, press spacebar, hold the Command key and go down again, Monday is forgotten. The screen reader voiceover is used together with Safari, and therefore this screen reader users also cannot use this option. Multi-select is too complicated to operate and doesn't work well with Safari.
So we can't use the multi-select, but fortunately we have some other options available to us. So instead of a multi-select, a good alternative is a checkbox field. Because just like the multi-select, users can select multiple choices. So let's add in our days of the week again. So now users can still select multiple. They can use the keyboard to do this, and they can see which choices they have selected. So this is a much easier option for our users. Now I've got this drop-down field here, and I'm looking at the settings for this drop-down, and I notice that there's a setting for Enable Enhanced User Interface. And Enhanced User Interface seems like it would be a good idea, but I'm getting another accessibility warning.
The drop-down with an enhanced user interface doesn't get keyboard focus, so cannot be used by a keyboard or a screen reader. In this demo we have first a normal drop-down and then an enhanced drop-down. If I tap through the form, the enhanced drop-down is skipped. First the first t-shirt size select, and then the second one, the enhanced one, is skipped, and focus goes straight to the submit button. So it cannot be opened with a keyboard, only with a mouse.
So now that I have my form set up and I know that all of the fields in my form are accessible, there are some field settings that I need to pay attention to. So first of all, a lot of people don't like how it looks to have a label up at the top of the field. Especially, we can go in here and we can put in placeholders. And that's redundant, right? We don't need this name up here anymore, right? Because it takes up a lot of space and it looks ugly, but oh no, we're getting another warning.
A label gives a form control its name, so screen readers and voice recognition software can target and announce it properly. A placeholder is used to give a hint about how to fill out the form. Always keep the label visible. While typing, you may forget what you needed to fill out. And you have to delete the text to make sure you are filling out the right info. Also, a form using autocomplete is easy to check with a visible label. Be kind to your user.
So even though we do have placeholders, the form will be easier for everyone to fill out if we do leave the label there. Another setting that we need to pay attention to is the sub-label placement. So some of these fields, like name and address, have multiple inputs on the field, and the field itself gets a label, but then each of the individual inputs has its own sub-label. And there is a setting under Appearance for whether the sub-label should be above or below the inputs. And there's also, if we go to the form settings page, there is actually a global setting for this. So we can set the label, sub-label placement to be below or above the inputs. And once we do that, that is going to impact all of the fields on this form. Or we can select the sublabel placement for individual fields if you wanted some of them to be different. So Rian, could you talk about why we want these to be above or below and whether they should all be the same?
People read from the top down and expect the information they need to be in that order. A form will be much easier to fill out when the labels are above the inputs, as the users expect. Especially with the address. It's visually much clearer when the label belongs to which input field. Compare below and above. Be kind to your users.
In some fields, like name and address, there is, under the Advanced Settings tab, there is an option for Enable Autocomplete. And this, by default, sometimes provides some attributes, but this looks like a pretty advanced feature. Can you explain what's going on here, Rian?
Using autocomplete is an accessibility requirement not everyone is happy about. Autocomplete for credit card information may be a security issue. But it is helpful to let the browser automatically fill out your name, email and address data. Especially for people that have difficulties with typing or memory. On the website of the MDN you can find a complete set of values for autocomplete, and note there is no value for city, so use address level 2 instead.
The submit button in our form also has some settings. For instance, I could set an image as an input type. An image seems like a nice idea because it would look a lot nicer than that button, but why are we getting an accessibility warning about this?
Some users zoom in to be able to read the text better. And there are two ways to zoom in: everything or text only. For accessibility, you must be able to zoom in up to 400%. Let's do that. The chances are the image will become blurry and the text unreadable. And the user must be able to zoom in text only up to 200%. Let's do that. Only text is enlarged, images are not. So the user may still not be able to read what's on the image. Don't use an image for the submit button.
Okay, so I'll stick with the text input, but I can also put conditional logic on the submit button. Wouldn't it make sense to not show the submit button, for instance, if they haven't selected a t-shirt size? That way they can't fill out the form incorrectly?
Hiding the submit button can cause anxiety. If a form doesn't look or behave as expected, people may leave because they can't figure out how to submit the form. Use error messages for that.
So, now that our fields and field settings are all set up to be accessible, let's go look at the form settings page, because there are some settings here that we need to pay attention to. We already talked about putting our sublabels above the inputs, and we can do that form-wide here instead of having to do it for each field. There's another setting here for validation summary. Rian, can you explain what this one is about?
We want to give users all help they need to fill out the form. A summary above the form is a great help for not that web-savvy users, and also for blind users and keyboard users. A summary explains clearly what still needs to be done before submitting the form. and helps keyboard users to quickly tap to the fields that need work.
Okay, we've set up our form to be accessible, so now it's time to share it with the world. So I'm going to click Embed, I'm going to create a new page. And now my form is embedded on this page. And if I click on the form block, I get some settings here. If I choose Orbital as my form theme, now I have a bunch of settings that let me change the appearance of my form, including things like button styles. So there are a lot of color settings in here. So what happens if I start to play with some of these colors? What are these warnings about?
People must be able to read your form. So the color contrast between text and background must be sufficient. In this case, the light blue background and the white text have insufficient color contrast. You need to choose another combination of color between text and background here, depending on what looks best on your site.
So now you know how to quickly and easily create accessible forms with Gravity Forms. You can learn more about Gravity Forms and accessibility at gravity4.ms/accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you to Gravity Forms for being a platinum sponsor to WordPress Accessibility Day. The next, as I said, this is a lightning talks. So our second session is about making a visual tool accessible to screen readers. The session will be conducted by Amber Hinks and Raghavendra Satisberry.
Thank you to WordPress Accessibility Day 2023 sponsors. Platinum sponsor, Equalize Digital. Equalize Digital's Accessibility Checker plugin is an automated accessibility scanning tool that helps WordPress websites become and stay accessible. Platinum sponsor, Gravity Forms. Gravity Forms is the professional form builder that you need to create beautiful, powerful, and accessible forms. Gold sponsors, 20i, DQ, Empire Caption Solutions, Pressable, and WP Engine. Silver sponsors, CodeGeek, Drake Cooper, GoDaddy, Lone Rock Point, NerdPress, Overnight Website by Kinetic Iris, Riola Networks, A11Y Collective, and The Blogsmith. Bronze sponsors, Accessicart, Green Geeks Web Hosting, Hall Analysis SEO Consulting, HDC, ITX, IvyCat, MetaBox, Pixel Chefs, Simply Schedule Appointments, SiteGround, Termageddon, Underrepresented in Tech, Weglot, and Yoast.